Sure. I'm the head of product at It's Complicated. We're a small team, so essentially that means I'm the only product person, and I work with two developers. And we are using the React SDK.
All right, now tell us a little bit about It's Complicated and the vision behind the company.
Yeah, sure. So It's Complicated was founded in 2017 in Berlin, and I would say, a therapy community. And so we have two sides of the platform. We have our therapists, and we have our therapist seekers. And so for the therapists, we provide them different value propositions, but I would put them in three buckets. One is community. On the therapist side, sometimes private practice can get lonely, so we would provide community features. The second is a marketplace to find new clients and new business. And then the third is all around tooling. So we want to create a platform that has the best tools for therapists. And in the market today, a lot of these tools aren't consolidated, but we're trying to make them all consolidated so that practice management is also easier. And we also see a lot of synergies between different tools and putting them in one platform. And then on the therapist seeker side, we want to make the journey to mental health support as easy as possible. And so the main value proposition for them has been to find a therapist quickly, which we've done via directories and matching services. And now we're moving more and more into content to help them to get help in other ways.
And so previously, I know It's Complicated, you were using Twilio, right? Were you using their programmable video?
That's right.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about what you were looking for, why you decided to switch from Twilio? I know you're using their bespoke UI, but what other factors were part of your consideration when looking for a replacement?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for us was around call reliability and stability. And so the therapy room, online room, is a very intimate place. And so having a call be disrupted can really disrupt the meeting between a therapist and client. But also at the end of the day, these therapists are running businesses. And so it's very awkward because it's like, well, if it's a 60-minute session and it takes 10 minutes to go find another video solution, how do you manage that? So reliability was really important for us. But then there was also the other more nice to have features for us, which we saw Gitstream had a lot of. And so that's integrating chat with the video solution. That was a big one for us. Just a sleeker UI and more modern UI was also a big thing for us. At some point, we want to go more and more into the US. And so I guess compliance, the HIPAA compliance is important for us once we do that. And so I think the must-haves around stability and more clean and modern UI were there. And then we also saw that Gitstream was a partner that would be able to add on a lot of nice-to-have features, like the ones I mentioned, but also like whiteboard and things like that. So that was the motivation. And then the commercials were also favorable. I think Gitstream has a very competitive commercial model, and I would say that it's put a lot of effort into pricing and packaging depending on where the company is at, where its client is at in its life stage. And so for us, we're a very early startup. We know we have our must-haves of reliability, and we found a packaging and pricing that made a lot of sense for us. And so that the commercials was a big motivation as well. And then the cherry on the cake was being able to be put on the beta program.
That's great. And can you tell me a little bit if you evaluated any other solutions aside when you were looking to make the switch from Twilio, aside from Stream?
No, not really. So we evaluated some others and then quickly eliminated them based on costs. Then we looked into Twilio, which also provides pretty competitive pricing, but in terms of feature set, it wasn't as competitive as Gitstream.
And let's get into those features now. So what features do set Stream apart, and which ones are, the most useful in a one-to-one therapy setting or when building community?
Sure. So I would say whiteboarding is going to be big. As of now, we haven't made use of all the different feature sets that you have available. But when we looked at your website and we saw what was there and what was coming, we saw a lot of potential. So the ones we see a lot of potential in is whiteboarding. So that's really big for CBT therapists, for instance. Um, then the other was, there was another one. Yeah, like there was also being able to blur your background, which is, it's quite small and everything has it these days, but that's also important for privacy. Um, then the other one, it's not so much a feature, but just like a capability. Twilio didn't offer at a reasonable price point the ability to have multi-participant calls. And so when it comes to family therapy, group therapy, things like that, that's also a must-have and allows us to cater our video solution to a market that otherwise we couldn't have. And so, yeah, and concretely, Twilio versus Gitstream, I think multi-participant call access at reasonable prices was a big one. Whiteboarding, being able to blur background, and then noise cancellation, I've also heard has been better versus Twilio, like reduced echoing in the background.
Very nice. Yes. I think at the beginning of COVID, I tried to schedule a consultation with the therapist and the video was horrible. It was through just like their own proprietary thing and it like kept glitching and it's really disruptive to the experience. So I had actually not even thought of family therapy as a use case for multi-participant, but that makes sense. Or couples if they're far apart or long distance or something. That's really interesting. And then what is CPT for the whiteboarding? What type of therapy is that?
It's cognitive behavioral therapy. And
CBT.
It's an approach to therapy, and whiteboarding is a tool that they use in video sessions.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And so what was that experience being part of the video beta test? What was your experience with the engineering team at Stream?
Yeah, I think it was awesome. So it was like really instantaneous feedback. It was like we were working in the same company on the same team. That's what it felt like. And so our engineers and myself were constantly talking with the Gitstream team. And when we had a shared Slack thread, and when we would post something, people would jump on it instantaneously. And so we felt really heard, and that was good. And it felt like a very collaborative environment to work with another company in.
That's great to hear. And I'm sure everyone would say the same thing. We really see it's Complicated as a true partnership. And it's been so great to learn from the way you've leveraged the product in beta and get all of that feedback. It's been so helpful for our team. And just to jump back to one feature that I have here in my notes that we didn't cover, did you request the transcription feature? I have that here from our AE Riley.
Yes, I knew I was forgetting something.
Okay.
Yes, it was the transcriptions. And so we saw the transcriptions on your website, and I mean, there's several use cases this can unlock. So one is for note taking. So, therapists write notes in different ways. They either handwrite them or they type them on their computer. And for the cohort or persona that types them on their computer, it's actually quite disruptive and they don't like doing it. And I've been in client interviews where they said, yeah, it's super weird when they're writing notes. And so transcription makes a lot of sense because they don't have to really worry about note taking. They can always revisit the transcription and base their notes on that. So note taking is a big one, but also therapists, they have supervisors and they have to send supervisors their sessions to get feedback. And so transcriptions were really great because they could just send this file to the supervisor to get feedback on how the conversation went with their client. So yeah, this was a super cool feature to us. I think at our stage, as a startup, as a bootstrap startup, it's not in our budget. But when it comes time to afford something like that, we'll totally implement it.
Great to hear. Just wanted to be sure that I covered that. That was a great point from Riley. And so Can you tell me a little bit about where you are in the integration? I know sometimes when I talk with customers, they aren't completely live yet or they haven't finished their rollout. If you have, what has that rollout been like to your customer base?
Sure. So I would say we're done with the integration. All we need to do on our side is release the GitStream video API to our customer base. But it's behind a feature flag right now, and we are working with the GitStream team on understanding usage data right now amongst our beta group, because ultimately the costs that we're going to incur in our relationship are important to us, and we need to know those up front. And so once we know usage really well, then we can decide how we roll it out to the rest of our user base. But we're waiting to get that number down. But once that's down, and I think everything's going to look fine, then we'll do a phased rollout to the rest of the users that are currently not using GitStream. Then everyone will have access to GitStream. One other thing, in terms of approach, the way we did it was there was a lot of users that were complaining over the years about Twilio. So we started the beta with them, and that was about a 30-person beta. And then we learned and we gave feedback to GitStream, and then as of now it's an open beta, and everyone can use it, but they just have to request access. And then once we get usage down, then we'll roll it out to everyone.
That is a really smart approach. And then something similar to that, I see here in the notes, Riley also added that screen sharing was an issue with Twilio. Was that something you were looking to improve with Stream?
Not at the time. Like, I would say Twilio is in general flaky, but you could screen share.
Okay, that's good to know. So have you gotten any customer feedback from those people who have raised their hand to be part of the beta, and what has that looked like?
Yeah. So the early days of the beta, it was there were some issues around call reliability, but that's fine. And like, we're a startup and we build products from the ground up, so that's totally fine with us. I think the important thing was that GitStream acted on this incredibly fast and fixed issues super fast, and we felt very supported. And so the early days, issues with reliability, but GitStream solved that pretty fast. As of late, there hasn't been any negative feedback actually, which is quite cool. And so everyone is having no feedback at this stage is good feedback. People just come with their issues, and so when it's silence, it's normally a good thing. And when I do reach out, it's been all positive, and major use cases that weren't supported by Twilio before are now supported. So being able to have multi-participant calls has unlocked a lot of people. Like couples therapy, I would say about 1/3 of our therapists perform couples therapy. And so this is a major market that we didn't address, and now they're very satisfied. And and the integration with our own product has been very smooth, and so it's a very seamless experience too, which is really nice. So for the past month, all positive feedback from my end.
That's so great. And since you mentioned that Stream has been so quick to handle any issues through the Slack channel, what was your experience like with Twilio, just for our own personal knowledge? Were you able to reach a customer support agent? Did you have a dedicated means of communication with them?
No, I believe it was just email, and it was pretty loose SLAs. So I think GitStream is like a magnitude of 10 better, so it's much better.
That's great to hear. And I know our CEO Thierry and even our CPO Marcelino have been attending a lot of the calls with the video beta customers. Have you worked with them directly at all, or has it mostly been with the specific SDK engineer?
We've had a lot of access to executives at GitStream, which has been really great, and they were very collaborative and approachable. And the ones we met with were Marcelino, as well as Lou. So these were the two executives that we had the most FaceTime with. And through and through, it was great. With Marcelino, we worked together really quickly on product feedback and implementing things around stability and getting those issues solved really early. And with Lou, I think he was a great partner to work with because of our financial situation as a startup. They created a very flexible pricing model for us, which we really appreciated. So on both sides, they were very, very supportive.
That is great to hear. I just chatted with Lou before jumping on this call, and he was really excited to have this case study. So that's great to hear. I'll pass that feedback along to him. Okay, let's keep moving through here. You mentioned you've been able to address a large part of the market, about 1/3, you said, for couples therapy that you didn't have before with the multi-participant. Have your therapists given you any feedback, or does that kind of lump into the customer feedback, or is it mostly people seeking therapy who are letting you know what they think of the beta?
So it's just been the therapists that have given feedback, and yeah, at this point we haven't integrated a lot of these more nice to have features where I would hear therapists saying, "Oh wow, da 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 da," and we haven't rolled this out to everyone, so I can't really have really good apples to apples before and after usage statistics. But qualitatively, when I speak to therapists, they're very happy with the solution. It's integrated, it's stable, all their must-have needs are met, and they're really happy with it. And so from that perspective, we're very pleased.
We talked a little bit about how the reliability wasn't as high during the very beginning of the beta period, but can we talk about the call quality and maybe how it differs from Twilio?
Yes. So we do have we with the integration with GitStream, we explicitly made the call quality better, and so we just have a higher resolution, and that shows in the product. And I've gotten feedback from therapists themselves that the call quality resolution is much better, and both from therapists outside the team. It's complicated. We actually have 4 therapists on our team. But I also gotten direct feedback from the founders of the company, Johan and Jakob, that the call quality was great.
Tell me a little bit about what the future might look like for the integration. I know you mentioned, maybe further along, you'll integrate the transcription capabilities, but what other immediate things aside from rolling it out past the, beta, you have to request to use it? What does that look like?
Yeah, right. So we're really excited about the future actually with GitStream. And as I said, one of our main value proposition is tools, like a comprehensive toolkit, and we see a lot of potential in integrating with GitStream further with our different tools. And so going into the future for video and where that comes into other tools is we want to integrate with your chat product. Some of the feedback we've received was we received feedback about our chat product in general, but when it comes to video, we've had therapists ask to integrate chat within video, for passing documents or sending notes, things like this, sending links to resources. So we definitely want to do that, and have a very integrated video and chat product experience. And then when we go to the US, I think HIPAA compliancy is going to become a very big must-have for us, and in building a toolbox for therapists in the US. So that's on our radar as well. And I would say these are, kind of like the very foundational features that we want to have, like great compliance, super seamless chat and video experience. And then more and more, we're going to roll out all the nice features that you are putting out on your roadmap. And so being able to blur the back of your screen, we're already working on that. I think this will be released soon. Whiteboarding, that's going to be released soon. There's several feedbacks I've gotten that are very specific to the therapy space that I'll pass along to Marcelino, and maybe those will be out soon. And and so as long as you keep bringing new features to the video product, we'll keep introducing them and product marketing them to our therapist space.
That's great to hear. And just, for the sake of my knowledge, what are some of those features you hope to see added to the roadmap?
Yes, so it's very specific to the therapy space. So session timers was released on your end, and we've integrated it. So it's already in, and people are using it, and it's really valuable for them. So the most recent feature request that came to my mind was an inbuilt EMDR tool, like is available for Zoom. So I need to look this one up a little bit, but EMDR is a very specific approach, and it's not applicable to all our therapists. So I haven't prioritized that as a feature request yet, but this is one. But I think generally, all the features that you're coming out with are things that I'm hearing about. Whiteboarding was one that I was hearing about, and same with being able to blur your background, obviously. Transcriptions, that's sort of just a supervisor use case. So without me having to tell you really what to build, you guys have already thought about it. So that's also great.
Perfect. That's so interesting. And I realized we didn't really talk about documentation. It sounds like you communicated a lot with our team, but did you lean on those or any tutorials that we might have had available?
Um, I believe so. And so when I look at the early days of our conversations, we were able to use your video API and get a product up and running without much conversation in the beginning. So I assume that we relied on the docs pretty heavily, and they were enough for one of our engineers to get started.